are doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and joining me today, back again, is the Yuli DiMartino. Yuli, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Back.
Thank you.
For those joining our live stream, as always, we are live streaming across all CDG social media platforms. This is the voice of all automotive. You are in the right place to get up to date and to participate in the conversation, to have a voice. Post those comments. We'll bring them into today's show. And I always say this, but what a show we've got for you today, Our Daily Dealer Live audience. We have got some really exciting and interesting topics. Wednesday, after our Daily Dealer Live show, news broke about the exit of Vinay from Nissan.
Unfortunately.
Sales, Nissan America. And we've got Vinay on the show today. Also, Burnett will join to talk about building a Ford 2.0 facility, so we'll have a fascinating conversation on that. But you know what? Before we go there, let's dive into today's headlines. All right. So first up today, ICE tells Hyundai, let's see if you get this reference. These are not the visas you're looking for your Star Wars fans. You may recognize that reference. That's the backdrop after the shocking raid on Hyundai's Georgia battery plant. South Korean workers were shackled and hauled off for visa violations. The images rattled Seoul and raised tough questions about whether Trump's economic and immigration policies are working against each other. Yes, most of the workers lack the required H-1B visas, but as Commerce Secretary Howard points out, demand for those visas is hundreds of thousands of applications higher than the available slots. So while the Trump administration pressures automakers to expand U.S. manufacturing, it's also making it harder to get the labor needed to help build those plants and train American workers. And as Hyundai has big plans at its recent Investor Day, Hyundai CEO Jose Munoz called the U.S. the brand's, quote, engine of growth, with a goal of producing more than 80% of U.S. sold vehicles locally by 2030, up from 40% today. And famously, we know from the news, Hyundai actually chartered a plane to bring those detained workers back home. But what a fascinating topic. You have one interest to bring production back to the U.S., but you've got to have resources, you've got to have expertise, and you've got to have labor to bring it back. What happens when that labor you bring into the U.S. to bring it back can't work in the U.S.? What happens then, Yuli?
Yeah, it's tough to speculate, but it looks like they were trying to thread the needle, potentially. Who knows? But You're right. Quite a conundrum.
Yep. Fascinating. Next up today, new car prices are creeping higher as 2026 models started hitting lots and automakers tried to cover rising costs. Kelly Blue Book says the average transaction price climbed to over $49,000. That's about $250 more than in July and up 2.6% from a year ago. That's the biggest jump in more than 2 years. Can you believe that? An average transaction price on new is about to hit $50,000. Asking prices moved higher too. The industry's average MSRP now tops $51,000, up 3.3% year over year. Incentives, meanwhile, are holding steady. Automakers spent about 7.2% of ATP on discounts and rebates in August, roughly the same as a year ago. What's the takeaway here? Well, costs are definitely up for automakers, dealers, and buyers, but the market's adjusting gradually, not lurching into chaos. Speaking of chaos, this next article is fascinating. Land Rover has now extended its global production shutdown through September 24th. That's the third straight week of disruption after a sweeping cyber attack crippled operations. This reminds me of the shock from the CDK shutdown a year ago. We all felt that. But insider sources warn the disruption could stretch into November, reports the BBC. JLR says it's conducting a forensic investigation after confirming that some data was stolen, but operational delays are costing JLR around 1,000 units every week, and who knows how many millions of dollars. So here's our ask, by the way. We would love to bring on a JLR dealer to talk about this shutdown, the impact to business, and what is the path forward to getting back up into full business. So if you're interested in coming and joining the show, go to the place where we bring all those requests into one place. It's cdgguest.com, cdgguest.com. And to any dealer, the appeal is the same. This is the voice of automotive, the Daily Dealer Live, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. You are in the right place. If you have an opinion, including on JLR, go to cdgguest.com, fill out the form, and come talk about your topic. You'll meet Michelle. She'll interview you, talk a little bit about the topic, and we'll get you scheduled up for the show. Lauren Klein with a comment. We all have some kind of PTSD from the CDK breach. And Michelle comes in and says Star Wars as a reference to my Hyundai opening line. Transitioning into the car dealership, guys, back with our second annual NADA party. It's happening in Las Vegas on Thursday, February 5th. It's the hottest ticket at NADA 2026 with special guests and top automotive personalities, plus a heck of a lot of great content, conversation, and innovation. To be considered for a formal invite, just hit the link in the show notes, request to join, fill out the questionnaire. Unfortunately, we can't have everybody there. There's not enough space, but we will be judicious in trying to figure out who ends up there. So go there, fill out the formal invite, and we'll get you brought into that event. We're excited for everybody who's able to attend. So
then you can hang out with us.
You can hang out with us. We'll be there. Yuli, you'll be there. I'll be there. Yeah. Everybody. It'll be good times. So, all right. Well, let's launch into our first guest today. And actually, I have the title. It says former head of U.S. marketing and sales, Vinay Shahani. I'm not sure that's accurate just yet because you still have a Nissan email address. So, Vinay Shahani, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. How are you?
Yeah. So what is the status this morning? Actually, so let's do this. Earlier this week, right after our show on Wednesday, the news broke of your departure. It's a 180 from what we all thought was happening in your world. Tell us a little bit about the news that broke Wednesday. What prompted it, and what are you up to now? What are you going to do?
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I love what you guys are doing. You're disrupting the space. Just a big fan of the platform that Yossi has created and everything you're doing. And thank you for the opportunity to tell the story. You had a little screen on there that said Vinay quits, and it made me cringe a little bit because I got to tell you, I'm not a quitter. I would like to tell you that I resigned responsibly. And I'll tell you the God's honest truth. I went to my boss, Christian Meunier, about 2 months ago. And I told him, I'm having a hard time. I've been living in Dallas, commuting to Nashville. I've got a young family. I've got 2 kids. I've got a dad who's not in the best of health. And I said, I got to dial it back. And I think you need a leader who's boots on the ground. And that's my leadership style. But I didn't feel like I was up for the challenge of the logistical challenge. So I said, I need you to find me a successor, and I want to do this responsibly. I want to hand off the reins in a smooth transition. But that doesn't take away from the status of the company, which I think is on the right track. I'm really super proud of all the progress we've made in a short period of time. It's truly bittersweet. I mean, I grew up in this company. This is my second stint, as you know. And you and I were talking before the show, but I think it's an important point. I am who I am today. I am the leader that I am today because of the investment that Nissan made in me many years ago, coming right out of school. I worked in every aspect of the value chain: manufacturing, product development, sales, marketing, product management. It was the best possible training ground I ever could have had to take on the role that I had as the chief marketing and sales officer for the biggest market that Nissan has globally. So I'll pause there because I said a lot, but definitely not an easy transition.
You gave us great information, and family is a great reason to do what you're doing.
Sure.
Before we go into kind of the future path for Nissan,
Sure.
Tell us what are your plans now? So what will you do? You're looking for a travel less job, right? Like
Yeah, you know,
what's
life has
next?
it. Thank you for asking that question. The news just broke yesterday. I had to wait because every company has their own cascade. But I'm excited to try something completely new. So the old dog is going to learn some new tricks, hopefully. I will join AT&T based here in Dallas. It's a
Oh,
150-year-old
Oh,
American powerhouse brand. I'm
yeah.
thrilled to join as a senior vice president of marketing and planning. I'm
Okay.
going to be working for a super talented business person, a woman by the name of Kellen Smith Kenny, and I'm truly excited about it. You know, it was an opportunity that just kind of very serendipitously came up for me. And it's a great brand with a great track record, and they're having fantastic success. And it's a really phenomenal leadership team. So I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity.
And so is there a crossover somewhere in automotive with that role at AT&T, or is it
Look,
completely
I, I,
outside the
I think
space?
it's less about the industry crossover and it's more about the functional crossover.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is the transferability. You know, brand management and brand building is uh, going to be very consistent. I mean, it's the same tenets. It's
Yeah.
ultimately relentless focus on your customer,
hmm.
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to really innovate and give consumers what they need, when in many cases they don't necessarily know or can articulate what they need. I think this idea of the converged customer, when you think about 5G wireless and fiber coming together, and the investments that AT&T has made in infrastructure around the company really put them in a strong position to win in the future. Um, but the other exciting piece is to delve into not only consumer marketing but business marketing. So cybersecurity and connectivity and thinking about enterprises and what they need will be let's say a new muscle memory for me. So
Well, maybe
very
you can go
very
help
excited about that.
you can help JLR. And as a T-Mobile wireless user, no
Uh-oh.
shade to T-Mobile. I can't stand T-Mobile, so maybe I need to make the
Hey,
shift
I'm
to
going to help you
AT&T.
out, Sam. I'm happy to
Hook
rise to
me
that
up.
challenge.
Hook me up. All right, so let's go back to Nissan for a second.
Sure.
So a couple weeks ago, or several weeks ago, Vinay, you were in Vegas and you laid out
Hmm.
your plan to dealers there as part of the Nissan meeting. Dealers have believed in that plan skeptically, but that they've rallied around that vision that you have and the
Yeah.
steps you've already taken. So, given your departure, what's your message to those dealers that were in that room? Presumably, you knew the news.
I did.
They did not.
I did.
But you put forth that vision. What would you say to those dealers today listening to
Yeah,
the show
look,
that were in that
you
room?
know, I've known many of these dealers for over 20 years, and I don't take it lightly. And I knew it was going to be a tough thing to explain, but I have to tell you, I've been overwhelmed with the notes and texts of support that I've gotten from many of the dealers that I've worked with for years. My vision is the company's vision now. It's not a vision that's going to change like you change your socks every day with a new person coming in. Um, I want to speak for a minute about Mike Suter. Um, there's not going to be any gaps between me and Mike. I've been fortunate to have known that he's coming on board. So before he was even announced, I've been spending time with him, transitioning with him, sharing the vision of how we're going to elevate this brand, the investments that we're making in the product, the simplification that we've executed under Christian and my leadership to really simplify and get the dealers focused on one primary KPI, which is retail sales. Getting the marketing focused on the car as a star. You know, that's my thing. I'm super proud. When I first got to Nissan or rejoined Nissan in January of 24, we use EDO as a company that looks at marketing effectiveness. We were bottom three in the industry in
Wow.
mainstream
Yeah.
brands of
Hmm.
marketing
Yeah.
effectiveness. Today, we are top three. We're top three because we've put the focus on the product. We've put the focus on the features that are drivers of consideration. And we're
Hmm.
telling the story of what we call QDRS, quality, durability, reliability, and safety, which are the hygiene factors for this industry. And I think a lot of those things had gotten lost before I came back. And now they're squarely in the bullseye. none of this is going to change. Mike is going to embrace this
So
and run with it. This is something that he and I have spent a lot of time transitioning on. You know, he had 10 years with Nissan before coming back, just like I did. Mike ran global after sales for Nissan. That's no small feat. He's worked in the U.S. before. He knows the market. He knows many of the dealers. Look, I think he's the right guy, and especially with Christian as the common denominator.
yeah.
I'm really, really confident that this vision is going to stay intact. The product investments are already underway. We're investing in the hybrid system that we call e-Power Hybrid. It's coming here next year. That's all on track. The investments we're making on Infinity, and I've said a long, long time now that Nissan cannot be strong without a strong Infinity. You have to have the luxury mark there.
Yeah.
That's where you can take platform sharing and create extra value for the customer and extra value for the company and the investors by virtue of incremental margins that are available in the luxury space. All of those investments are moving forward. I mean, we have $30 billion of liquidity right now, and that money is being used towards investing in the product pipeline.
So let me ask a couple tough questions, and
Sure.
and I'm gonna pivot these as these are some of the things that I hear other dealers say and speak about as they talk about your departure. So first thing, some people are saying, "Hey, Vinay knows something that's going on, and he's jumping before bad news hits or a pullback happens." That there's something that you're walking away from that's preventing you from staying. What would you say to the dealer that says that?
Well, I would invite any of those dealers to contact me and have an honest conversation. I'm a 24/7 guy for dealers. I always have been throughout my career. And many of these dealers
I can
have
vouch for that, by the way.
Yeah,
You'll pick
and
up the phone at any
and
time.
they any dealer can call me anytime, and I've always taken the
Yeah.
calls, and I will continue to take the calls because I still believe in these two brands. Christian is a
Yeah.
dear
Yeah.
friend of mine. I think he's one of the best in the business,
Yeah.
and he is going to continue to drive this company in the right way. To those who say that I know something and I'm jumping from the Titanic before it sinks, look, there's people who think the Earth is flat still.
I love
Fair.
And
it. Yeah.
there's people who think that there's conspiracy happening left and right.
Yeah.
I can tell you this was personally driven, guys. I mean, in the end, I'm not going to lie, and I don't feel bad about this. My family comes first.
Yeah.
I think everybody would say that.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like when I first took the job, it was under a different leadership regime, and the idea was you can commute to Nashville. It doesn't need to be all the time. And I, in my gut, it didn't sit well with me, but I said, look, it's a big opportunity to come back and help a company that I love. So I'm going
Yeah.
to try it. But I don't think it works, guys. I don't think remote
Yeah.
work is
You've
the
got to
way.
be present.
You
Yeah. You
have
got
to
to be
present.
present,
This business
engaged.
is so
Yeah.
hands-on.
Yeah.
And the idea of solving problems in between the meetings, at the water cooler, between walking from one place to the other with your colleagues, that's the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's how it has to
So,
happen. And all these companies that are asking their people to come back full time, like Nissan has done for all the right reasons, that's the way forward. And I believe in that. So while I appreciate and understand that there's going to be people that feel a certain way and think that it's not true, guys. I mean, I'm being
so,
honest with you.
so last tough question, and then we can get on the fun stuff. Just one more, I promise.
Sure.
So, that there are multiple dealers that would also say, look, one of the challenges that Nissan has is decision making ultimately is made in Japan.
Yeah.
And given the historical issues with US based leadership, Japan just doesn't have the confidence to allow full command control to be given to US leadership, to make the tough decisions, to enact the tough changes, to really impact change. You've been doing that. You've been making massive change over these past 12 months. What would you say to somebody that says the Japanese leadership does not fully trust and or empower US based leadership, Vinay?
First and foremost, I'm the kind of guy who's always going to tell you when I agree with the criticism, and I agree with the criticism. I think Nissan, up until, let's say, 9 months ago, was still that. I think I was told that it had gotten better from the time that I had left in late 2013 to the time that I
Yeah.
returned in January 2024. I don't think it had gotten better. And I experienced that for my first, let's say, 9 to 12 months on the job. Way too many decisions were being trying to be asserted, or I should say, trying to be made by the shot callers in Japan,
Mm,
Yeah.
and that's wrong. The power of a brand is here in the region.
yeah.
Um, that regime is gone. Thank God,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
gone. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
name names, but there's certain people that they had no right being in the job that they were in, and they're gone now. Ivan Espinosa, I want to talk about him for a few minutes. Ivan is a career Nissan guy. I knew him the last time I was here. He was named CEO in late last year, early this calendar year. That's now how he operates. He has empowered me up until now, and will empower Mike. He's empowered Christian to make the decisions for this region. And it's one of those things that I recognize that this company has operated for so long in a certain way that there's going to be some dealers that won't believe it until they see it. Now they've seen some of the changes that I've made with respect to simplification, with respect to product lineup changes, with respect to how we market, and the things that we're communicating. I mean, when I first got here, we had a global executive who was trying to dictate what messages are important for the Nissan brand here in the United States. And I call bullshit on that. I'm like,
Good for you.
you
Yeah.
just stop.
Yeah.
Just don't worry
Yeah.
about it. I got this. I got this with my
Yeah.
team. And with
Yeah.
Allison Witherspoon now in the job, leading marketing for the US, she understands. I mean, she is free of all of the controls that used to come from Japan, and we're operating the way we should have been operating all along. So I think there might be some inertia, some organizational tendencies at times to revert back to central control, but that's why we have strong people in the jobs that we have, like Christian, Mike Suter, Allison Witherspoon in charge of marketing, a guy named Arcangelo Lafaro who grew
Yep.
up in the Northeast region, went to Japan, and then came back. He's our head of sales now. Tiago Castro leading Infinity and doing a great job. I mean, I built a fantastic team. I handpicked these people, and I told Mike, I'm like, dude, you have a magical team in place. Keep that magic going. Keep that mojo going. Keep empowering them. And this is how both brands move back to where they need to be.
So your personality, though, played a big part in your ability to get things done and execute. And I would assume the confidence and the support you got from Japan in making the tough decisions you've had to make in the U.S. Your replacement, will he be similarly suited to you in continuing to make those tough decisions? You've simplified incentive programs. You've, gotten back on the bandwagon with Tiago on, increasing models for Infinity and other things. Those are tough decisions that go against maybe what Global may have looked for. How does your successor continue what you've done?
Well, first and foremost, I would invite you to ask him to come onto the show. I really think it would be good for you guys to get to know him, and it'll be a great way to accelerate the sort of kind of
Let's do it.
introduction
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
So let's do that if we can.
Yep.
Look, he genuinely loves Nissan and Infinity. He's a results-driven leader like me. He's impatient like me. So I think we share a lot of similar qualities. I will admit to you, our experiential profiles are very different. I came up in marketing, mostly marketing and sales. He's come up on the after
Mm-hmm.
sales side. But I think the thing that I really appreciate about Mike is he knows that he has some leaders that are pretty good at what they do. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Guide them, of course. But we've got a team of leaders that are moving the business in the right direction. And my advice to him is grab onto that wave, ride that wave. You're going to need to course correct as a leader, and we're going to have new challenges that pop up. I mean, we had a big one pop up in April with tariff but we found our way through it. You know, we maximized our industrial footprint here in the United States. We maxed out production in Smyrna and Canton, or getting there in Canton. And you have to pivot along the way, but I'm really confident. I'm really confident he's going to keep it going. He's a big personality, like me, but you know, he's a little different in what his experience has been, but he's very competent, and I think he's very excited.
Right.
So you mentioned Tiago, your counterpart on the Infiniti side. We've had him on the show. He was very transparent about the plans to bring that brand back to robust production, adding a model every single year for the next multiple years. When you went to him and you said, "Hey, I'm leaving," what was Tiago's response?
Yeah, it was tough, man. Telling my team earlier this week was, oh God, it was like I couldn't sleep before I walked in and told him. But you know, I'm one of those guys that I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I think many of them knew that I was struggling to this tug of war between being in Nashville, being in Dallas. You know, they knew it was tough, and you know, the empathy that I got back when I told them, I mean, it was a tearful meeting, I'll tell you that. Tiago, I've known since he was in engineering. I mean, he came and worked for me in 2008 when I was the model line director for the trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. You know, we developed a very close relationship when he worked for me then. When he came back, or when I came back, and we were making some moves, I was the first to say I want Tiago to run Infiniti and work for me. You know, I have a very strong luxury view just based on some of my experience. So it was a great symbiotic relationship. He's doing great. I mean, he's got the perfect experience of upstream and downstream responsibility in the past. And he knows that Infiniti's problems are predominantly based in the fact that we, for whatever reason, some prior leaders choked the product pipeline.
Yeah.
But we're making the investments, and we've got a couple of great new products coming in the near term that I think are going to turn the fortune of the brand around and get the dealers back where they need to be.
Vinay, I have a question for you here. So obviously, you know, Sam, I had my first tour with Nissan in 2010 and then again in 2023. I think there was a collective sigh on Wednesday as the news broke for obvious reasons. So, you know, this is the platform for all retail dealers. If you had something to say to address retailers, dealers out there right now and give them, you know, that hope that every Nissan store is looking for and clinging to, what would you say to them right now?
I would just say that you have a leadership team that is completely embraced the idea of a retail mindset, which I don't know was the case when I first got here, or I should say rejoined the company in January of 2024. Retail sales is the key KPI. It's what we get paid on. I will tell you, there was a natural, let's say, inclination to sell to rental fleet companies, and I said we have to stop that.
Yeah.
And our total market share, when you include retail plus fleet sales, our total market share is going to go down this year. Not because of retail. Retail will go up. Retail is going up. We've gained a point of retail share since December. We're at the 5% mark. We've got to get to 6%. That is the goal. Christian has said that. I've said that. But rental fleet sales are coming down drastically. There's profit that can be made there. It's still decent profit, but it's not right for the network. We have to get the network to be profitable, more profitable than they are, and they're already up 50% year over year, year to date. But they're not where they need to be. And I think we can sell more cars through the retail channel, which means that we're going to have to forego some of the production capacity that was being diverted to the fleet channel. And that also means getting the product right. And that's where I think we've spent a lot of time trying to dial in the product lineup, getting the features at the right level. We have these charts called red, yellow, green charts, rainbow charts, where we look at the top 10 features for each vehicle in each segment. So for example, in the Rogue segment, heated seats, very important for those of us who live in the North. Well, when you compare it against RAV4 and CRV, you had to step up into the grade walk like $5,000 before you could get the option of heated seats. That was a problem. It was a big problem. We fixed it. We brought it way down into the grade walk. So we're right in line with what RAV4 and CRV. We took our eye off the ball in the past, guys, and that stuff's not going to happen again. We're focused. We know what needs to happen. We know that sales per outlet is extremely important. It can't come fast enough. We know that. And it's a long-winded answer to your question, but retail is priority.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Dealer profitability priority, retail profit, retail a priority. You actually incentivize your reps to. It's tied to dealer profitability. There seems to be a difference in profitability based on geography, right?
Yeah.
So maybe less, maybe Midwest, maybe more Southeast, maybe more Northeast. What are those differentials? What do you think plays into the differences in dealer profitability?
It's a really great question, Sam. I think leasing is a big part of that. I think the markets where we're not as heavy on the lease channel are where we do a little bit better. And I'll be very frank with you. Our residual values are not where they need to be. Part of that is a brand deficit. We develop a car, it's very competitive, it's got all the features, all the specs at the right price, and we just don't get the same residual that the equivalent Toyota or the equivalent Honda will get. That's pricing power that needs to come by curating and nurturing the brand in the right way over time. It's not going to happen overnight. So consequently, we have to take these lower residual values, which means that it's more costly for us to do a lease transaction in some markets. And when the company is trying to nurse itself back to health, get profitability back where it needs to be, get free cash flow back where it needs to be, it's not happening fast enough. But this is where some of those product changes that we're making to streamline, optimize the product lineup with the right features at the right price, at the right grade level, that's starting to show improvement in successive generations of product. We're seeing 6, 7, 8 percentage point gains in 36-month residuals when we go from an outgoing model to the new model, like the new Armada as an example, which is a ground up redo, the new Kicks, which is a ground up redo. And as this gets into the product pipeline, the leasing situation is going to get better. We know that that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we see discrepancies region by region. I think the other fact is we don't have our hybrid yet.
Yeah.
And there's certain parts of the country where hybrids are the new ICE. You know what I mean? Like hybrids are the minimum expectation. And when you don't have that, it's hard to compete in the West more so than it is to compete in the South Central region where, people don't care about gas prices as much. So again, we have fixes in the pipeline that are coming. They're never going to be fast enough because product development is like moving the Titanic. It takes time, but the changes are coming and they're going to improve our ability to play on a level playing field across the country.
Well, Vinay, we appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this perspective and breaking this news. AT&T is where you're headed. Michelle, who works on the CDG team, just made an interesting comment, and I echo this. You are still talking Nissan in we.
Yeah.
And again, when you think about the rarity of a senior leader having so much ownership that you're willing to deliver bad news, right? A job change. And yet you're still here as we, still advocating, still representing, still part of the culture of Nissan. I think that says a lot for you, the team that you leave behind, the legacy you leave behind, but then also your commitment to that brand today and into the future. So I, again, the car guy in me wants to say, hey, let's look at the AT&T deal. Let's look at the Nissan deal and figure out how to keep you in the Nissan deal. But, I'm sure bigger powers have already tried that. So, Lauren Klein says online, he'll be AT&T's golden boy now, referencing our headline. And then Kim Norland says, great energy and great comments. But family first, that's a legit reason. So we appreciate you coming on the show to share your perspectives. Sure. We look forward to talking to your successor. And any closing comments as we wrap up, Vinay?
Hey, I would just keep encouraging you all to do what you're doing.
Thank you.
don't always take what certain other legacy outlets say as the truth and reprint it. I didn't quit. I resigned responsibly.
Yeah.
We'll
But
retract
like
that.
that.
We'll
thank
pull
you.
that
Thank
that
you.
thumbnail for you.
Thank you.
There was
Yeah.
some debate on that this morning. So
Yeah, I
you're
know.
right. You're here still.
Trust
Yeah.
me, the journalist who wrote that at first heard from me on that. So we'll just leave
Yeah.
that. We'll leave that be. But
So
in any case,
so when's it official, Vinay? Because you
uh,
still have your Nissan
yeah,
email.
I'll have Nissan email and phone until the end of next week, and then I start the new gig a little later this month. So at the end of the month. So it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you all the best.
Lots of ongoing success.
Vinay Shahani, former head of U.S. marketing sales. Thanks for being on the show, and best
Always
of
a
luck
pleasure,
in your new
guys.
career
Thank
with
you.
AT&T. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow. So breaking news here on the CDG side, AT&T is where Vinay is headed. And when you think about great leaders, when you think about good leaders, he just has a lot of those qualities people want to follow. So wish him the best of luck. And to Nissan and Infiniti and those brands he's led, who he attributes his qualities to, I just hope that they continue the trajectory he started and that they're able to continue the journey and realize the vision that he had. So, all right, Yuli, let's talk Toma. Toma, most voice AIs frustrate customers and waste everyone's time. Only Toma customizes AI agents to your dealership, so calls actually get resolved. That's why dealer groups trust Toma to automate their phones. Visit toma.com/CDG to learn more, or you can click on the QR code there. And a huge thanks to Toma for supporting today's content, including this conversation with Vinay and the up-and-coming conversation. All right, Yuli, I'm excited to share this news as part of our breakdown today. CDG News is presenting a very special edition of the Breakdown newsletter this week that pulls back the curtain on 5 real-world ChatGPT workflows dealers are leveraging for smarter decision-making, data synthesis, instant store-level insights, and much more. You'll get the actual prompts. It's not like behind a paywall. You'll get the actual prompts. You'll see how operators are wiring them into their processes and walk away with tactical ideas you can test in your own store. It's live right now on news.dealershipguy.com. You can go check it out. And actually, one of the cool things that Yossi has set up as part of the CDG organization is a feedback loop unlike any other. We get feedback on this show, which we invite and we want because it makes us better. The feedback on this ChatGPT tool has been astonishing. We've had CEOs of large dealer groups messaging in saying, hey, thanks for giving us these actual prompts. They work. And it's been the topic of many Daily Dealer Live shows is like, what can you do with ChatGPT from a practical standpoint? What can you do? What shouldn't you do? And you've got it all right here. Props to Anna and the entire team at CDG for helping to create this. So that is
great stuff.
Fun. All right, let's go to our last guest today, General Manager of Boulevard Ford of Millsboro, JB Burnett. JB, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, JB.
You're fresh off of a very long flight, you said. You were on a red eye last night, so
yes,
we're excited to have you
friend.
on here. So.
You still got bedhead.
5:30 this morning.
Yeah. All right, well, before we get into the topic you're here to discuss, answer our banner question, which is how's biz, and tell us a little bit about yourself in the process.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the business since I was 20 years old. I took over my first car dealership when I was 23. Worked for a lot of different manufacturers at this point, but I found home here at the Preston Automotive Group. Been here now just over 10 years, and I run their Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram store, their Ford store in Millsboro, as well as their Hyundai store in Millsboro. So a lot of exciting stuff. We just built a Lincoln vitrine as well, and working on construction for our brand new Hyundai facility. So just a lot of exciting stuff, and business is business. I think we're all sort of feeling, some of the brands, and Vinay touched on it a little bit with market share, and being a CGR dealer is challenging these days, and And so fortunately Ford and Hyundai are pulling strong. And so it's been a really good experience.
Very cool. Well, you're a part of a new product and project on the Ford side. You're opening a new facility that Ford just designed this or announced this design recently. Tell us a little bit about the facility, the announcement, and what you're working on.
Yeah, so Ford just announced, Elena Ford just announced last week at the dealer meeting in Vegas, the Signature 2.0 facility. And this is Elena's passion project. It's different. It really is, guys. And you know, being coming from an old school car guy mentality that I was
They're all
raised in.
different, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one's gonna be this one's gonna be really special. So it's an
Oh,
open
that's beautiful.
concept. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
wow.
It's an open concept. It's no cubicles, no desks, not a traditional sales process. So it's a concept where
Wow,
you
look at
come
that
into
showroom.
the showroom and it's like you're visiting somebody's living room, and it's sort of
Yeah.
where do you want to sit and how do you want to start the process. It's, you know, for years we've done, you know, follow me right this way to my
Yeah.
desk, and you know, that kind of a thought. And this is just different. It's you step inside, you see a big a barista bar area that they call the hub. And that's sort of where you start your journey, grab a beverage, and then it's, you know, where would you like to sit? Would you like to sit out here in the showroom, or would you like to sit in one of the open spaces, or and where do you want to start your journey?
Yeah.
You know, I've always said, you know, meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
Years ago, I had this epiphany, and I said, you know, I don't think I would buy a car from me.
Oh,
You know,
Hmm.
sit in the dealership for 3 hours, 4 hours,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I would do that. And so
Yeah.
I really started streamlining that process years ago. And so this part of it really brings it to life. This makes it, you know, based on the guest's journey.
So, is this a ground up rebuild or is it a remodel?
So it's a ground up rebuild, or a complete ground up
Ground
build.
up
We
build.
actually
Okay.
we'd started the process already, and then Elena came and visited about a year ago, and she said, "Hey, we're working on this new project," and we raised our hand and said, "Hey, we want to be the first ones to do that." And so we are the first Signature 2.0 facility in the world.
Wow.
The
Wow.
next
Congrats.
facility is going to be coming up in South America, and then the EU, but in the United States, we're going to be the first one for a little while.
How were you
Very cool.
chosen as a hand raiser to create the first facility? And how much does it cost? I over and above a standard Ford facility. That's the question.
So I don't know that there's a huge cost difference. Honestly, it's probably, you know, less than what a traditional facility would be. It's just so much more
Why?
open. There's not walls. There's not, you know,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things is breaking down the barriers between the departments. And there is no service waiting area or sales area. It's just one area. And then
Yeah.
our chairman and founder, Dave Wilson Sr., was Ford council president for the last year. And I think that probably, you know, that probably got us a little bit of a heads up and a little bit of an opportunity to go ahead and be that hand raiser.
So you went from a facility that was how many square feet to this one? Is this one bigger than your
So
prior?
this one's 44,000 square feet. It's got 30
Nice.
traditional service bays. It's got 5 indoor detail bays. The current facility that we're in, uh, well outdated. I mean, we're coming from a 14 bay facility with a showroom that's probably every bit of 2,000 square feet, and
Oof.
so we're really upgrading in life. And I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
it's about 8 miles away from where we're coming to, and the area that we're
That's a big
coming to is
change.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, when you think about having the conversations with the guests and making sure that everybody knows where to come once the doors close down the street,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's there's a lot of logistics going into it. But one of the cool things about this project is Ford's telling me, hey, this is what we want it to look like. We want this experience. But what they're not making me do is follow certain steps to get there. They're saying, "Hey, help us
Yeah.
create this and help us curate this experience
Hmm.
and talk us through the process while we go." We're part of this pilot program. It's only a select number of dealers in the world, and so
Yeah.
I get direct communication with Elena's team, and I get to sort of, you know, hey, this isn't working, this is working. You know, let's try this a little different.
So how many more service bays did you get prior facility to the new one?
So we picked up 16.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Picked up 16, and I have 10 techs lined up for the
That's what I was
for the
going to
base.
ask. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
you
that's one thing I
went
have
out
to
and
say.
recruited new techs. That's awesome.
Yep. My service manager did a great job.
So JB, we would get a ton of criticism if I didn't ask a couple questions about Ford. So I want to go there, and then we'll come back to the facility. So you were at the meeting in Vegas here recently, and I think a lot of Ford dealers coming into that meeting expected Ford to address a challenge that is out there right now, which is Ford is the number one most recalled OEM in automotive by not a small margin, by leaps and bounds. And from what I heard, I wasn't there, it wasn't really addressed. In fact, there wasn't a Q&A. Tell me about that. Given the large investment you're making in this brand new facility, what's your take on the recall situation and the response at Vegas?
I will tell you, it was addressed. I mean, Ford knows what they need to correct, and they were very blunt about it. Honestly, they came up and they said, "Hey, we know we have some challenges, and we're working through those challenges." But they had the commitment again to the dealer body that says, "Hey, as long as we hold up our end and fix the product and that kind of thing, the dealer body is going to hold up their end." And I'm going to tell you, especially being a multi-franchise general manager, Ford has my heart. They truly, they're probably the most transparent brand that I represent. They don't have problem having hard conversations, and they hit it head on. And so, when you look at some of the other OEMs, I mean, not to point fingers, but some of them aren't that transparent. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Nissan showed a pretty profound amount of transparency today, so that's interesting. Give us an example of the transparency on the Ford side, and I think that's an interesting thing coming from you, where you've got Stellantis, you've got Ford, and you've got Hyundai. So you've got three OEMs that kind of span span the spectrum. What's an example of Ford's transparency?
I mean, one of the things I'll tell you, when they talk to us and they address us as a group, there's very little hiding behind paper. There's very little. I mean, everything that comes out, they're quick. Their incentive plans are consistent. Everybody else jumps. I mean, Stellantis just made a change last week, in the middle of the month, and you have Ford that says, "Hey, we're going to pretty much put it out there for a quarter, and we might make some adjustments here or there, but overall, you know what to expect." And I think that's probably the most important part.
JB, I got to tell you, props to Ford for just leading the way in the whole tariff thing, right? They got to the pricing for all first, and then they had the President of the United States announce an OEM factory program, right? And then others tried to pile on to duplicate it, but I think Ford definitely had the advantage of that. Ford has a history of doing that. You even think back to the 08 situation and how early they were getting funding and whatnot. So,
and that's one of the things they touched on too, is that they found that message, and you find where real life meets the car business. Where, I mean, that message really, from America for America, that message hit home.
Strong. Yeah. So Dan C says 112 recalls year to date. I haven't pressure tested that. That's probably the fact if he said it. And then he also says dealers don't mind all the recalls because it feeds their service business.
Yeah,
but
dealers don't mind.
I do question what it's doing to the brand image from an LT perspective. And I think that is true, right? Yeah. Customers kind of want an understanding of what's driving it. And I guess that's what I haven't quite heard yet. We'd love to have somebody from Ford on to talk about that. What, from a QC standpoint, is kind of driving that to the dealers? Great point, right? It's service business. Stop sales are no fun, but
on that note, I mean, when we're talking about recalls, we're talking about a backup camera with a glitch. We're not talking about.
So you're saying it's minor.
It's serious, And so, we might not have a fix for a backup camera with a glitch, and that might, keep us on hold for a little bit, but we're not talking about real major recalls. We're talking about little things that we can sort of get around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's go back to your facility. I had to go there because I think that's one of the things that talking Ford, people are going to say, hey, why don't we go there? Let's go back to the facility. It's a beautiful facility. It does remind me a little bit of an Apple store, right? And it seems like that might be part of the intent with it. I understand that it's possible for you. They're giving you the tools, the technology to do a tablet-based transaction from start to finish. Tell us a little bit about what that is and what technology drives it and what does it look like, JB?
So I spent a lot of time on this one because they said, hey, we want it like this, but we don't know exactly where to go. And so I interviewed 5 different platforms for this technology, and I settled on AutoFi. AutoFi was the most capable tool that I found to be able to transpose your digital retailing experience to the showroom experience. So whether you started at home, whether you started in the dealership, you had that same flawless experience. And then the sales associate at that point has sort of direct control over the deal. So obviously the management's going to set the pricing or the trade or that kind of thing. But when it comes to, okay, you want to see it with $5,000 down or $10,000 down, you want to see 72 or 84, we set the parameters behind the scenes, and then they can play around with, not running back to the desk because they want a different down payment or something like that.
Yeah.
So it keeps it just a lot more of a clean transaction, a lot more transparent. And that's I think what we're really going for is the transparency, is keeping it easy.
With the new facility, JB, they're not dictating the technology you use to get there, but they're encouraging that you find and implement technology. So you identified AutoFi, and Lauren Klein online says AutoFi is a great product. What are some of the other technologies that you looked at and you saw AutoFi was able to give that continuous experience across the board better?
So there's a couple, like CarNow or A to Z, but they're really good digital retailing tools. When it comes to transporting that to the showroom and being able to really have a showroom experience as opposed to working a traditional deal, as we all know, AutoFi really they killed the showroom part of it, and so that's what sent me over. I had 2 demos with them, and just everything I looked at, they were the tool that made sense for what we're trying to accomplish, and that's where the sales associate and the guest really spend the whole time together, and there is no guy behind the curtain or something like that. And I think that's really what we eliminated in this process.
Is there going to end up being a finance process to this, or are they going to stay with the salesperson? And I mean, you keep referencing that Ford is kind of really open to this. So are they dictating this process?
They are
or
not.
Are you going to set a standard of what it's going to be?
So that's one of the coolest parts about this, is that it truly is, I get to sort of design it from beginning to end. And so on the finance side, I'm going to start it not being that way. I'm going to start it as a traditional process where you go through the experience with the sales associate, you get to finalize numbers and everything, and then you do visit a finance manager and finish that process. But AutoFi, I mean, all these companies, they have the ability that with the right team and the right training, it could be a one-stop shop, beginning to end.
Yeah.
Who's your DMS and your CRM provider?
CDK for DMS, and then Vin Solutions for CRM. Now, AutoFi is going to probably take a big part of what I'm using Vin Solutions for. The desking side, which traditionally we've done through Vin, is going to be done through them. And so it's going to be, the coolest thing about it is it's going to be super fluid. Again, I don't know what the next day is going to bring, but it's going to be fun to sort of experience it and then give that feedback back, so that the next Ford dealer that decides, hey, I want to go this direction, I could maybe have that blueprint for them.
Yeah. And when do you go, when's your grand opening? When do you open the doors?
So we open October 2nd.
Very cool.
Is going to be our launch date. So we're going to be finished shortly, but just with the end of the month and the move, and again, one dealership being 8 miles away, it's going to be a little, a lot of logistics. So we wanted to push it just to the beginning of the month.
Do you know what Ford's plans are for this new 2.0 facility? Is it to roll out quickly? Is it hand raisers only? Is it what's the strategy?
I think at the time, right now, I think it's just in its infant stages, and we want to see, again, this is Elena's passion project, and it's truly at the heart of her DNA. You've referenced an Apple store. It's truly different than a car dealership, and I think that's what we're going for. And I think if they find success in my facility and maybe a couple of the other pilot facilities around the globe, I think you will see a little bit bigger of a push. Right now, it's not a push. It's let's get it up and running. Let's try it. This is a different way to do business, and let's make sure that. I mean, I think the guest is going to appreciate this kind of business. Transparent, clean, easy.
For
Not
sure.
the guy behind the curtain, but we'll see what the market provides.
The litmus test for that is: would you yourself buy a car from yourself? There, I loved your entry into this topic earlier. So
I'm telling you, and I think I can make it at this point where, I mean, we know there's several kinds of buyers, right? But there's the guy that wants to do 100% of it in the showroom for 8 hours and grind, and then there's the guy that never wants to step foot in the showroom.
Yeah.
And so if I can just find wherever
I think you're
they're
seeing
at on
way
that
less of
scale,
the first guy going forward.
yeah, I think we're going to see a lot less of the first guy.
Yeah.
So will you be one price, JB, or still negotiate?
So it's funny you bring that up. I'm considering that option as well. So
Okay.
I think where we're going to go into it is obviously internet pricing, posted, no BS, no crack rebates or any of that stuff, and we're just going to open every deal there. It's going to be clean. It's not going to be, we can't open it differently with this process. We have to be really transparent. So we have to be aggressive, but obviously still maintain margins.
Yeah.
JB, we got to have you back once you're in the facility and you've got some track record behind you so we can actually talk dollars and cents and how does it drop to the bottom line? You've got a beautiful new facility. There's an expense load associated with it. The big question is does that facility help you with all the new technicians to handle recalls, everything else? Does it help you drop more net to the bottom line? And we would love to follow up with that.
For sure.
One final question online here before we move on. So Roland Lynn says, do you want Ford to build another ICE midsize sedan? Do you miss the market segment? What would you say to that?
I mean, I think there's still a market for that. And I see that more on the Hyundai side, right? So Hyundai is probably my brand that really still sticks with with that size vehicle where everybody else is transferred over to an SUV or a truck lineup pretty much completely. But I think there is a market there. And I mean, I think that would be really cool. I haven't heard any whispers about anything like that, but I do think there is a market for that mid-size sedan still.
Yeah. Well, JB Burnett, General Manager, Boulevard Ford Millsboro, thanks for joining the show and sharing your perspectives on all things Ford, including this brand new 2.0 Ford facility. We wish you luck and success as you kick it off next month. And again, we'd love to have you back to hear what the results are, JB.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. And I'd love to, once we get on the ground and figure it out and get the kinks worked out, love to come back and share it with you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you. Well, good conversation today. I mean, we broke some news. I'm starting to see commentary online about Vinay's going to AT&T. I'm excited to get an AT&T phone because my T-Mobile, no shade to T-Mobile. I have a very difficult time getting anything anywhere with them. But regardless, a few comments coming online. Lauren Klein talking about Auto FI and the Ford 2.0 facility. Very 1-point friendly when you think about that. Dan C says, thanks, guys, for another solid daily dealer live show. We can't go too quickly.
We thank you, Dan, for watching us. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, to all of our listening audience,
for sure.
Again, this is the place where automotive speaks. This is where we learn from each other. This is where we grow. And that invite back to the website for CDG guests. If you're a dealer, if you have an opinion, we want you on the show to share that opinion, that best practice. We all learn from each other. And on that note, it's Friday. We'll be back on Monday. In fact, we at the Ziegler Auto Group are opening a brand new Subaru facility. It's a remodel ground up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'll be broadcasting Yulee live from Fort Wayne, Indiana in advance of that open house. So if you want to come by and say hi, please do that. But to all of our audience, and Yulee, thank you for watching the Daily Deal Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, everybody, we're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if this is your world, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever miss a beat. And everybody, we'll see you Monday for our next episode live, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
We'll see you then.